is Lulu from Lights Camera Lulu, and today we have a special guest with us. This is Jim Mann, and today we're going to be talking about a fundraiser I started, and a little bit about who Jim Mann is. So we'll go back to Jim Mann in a minute, but first of all, I would like to start off. I have recently created a non-profitable business called Crafts for a Cure, and we make homemade jewelry and like dog tug toys and just basically anything. And we all do handmade earrings. Yeah, we make earrings too. And all the money we make goes to Outrun the Sun. And Outrun the Sun basically supports all the researchers that are working to cure melanoma. And they also work with Girl Scouts, and they have a merit badge. Correct, yeah. And so I'm doing this because my grandfather, who is, by the way, Jim Mann, has been through melanoma 2 times. So could you please start off by telling us what melanoma is?
Melanoma is best known as a skin cancer. And what people typically find melanoma is when moles on their body have appeared or have changed shape. They become irregular in shape, they become irregular in color, and sometimes bumpy. And that's how it's most frequently found.
The description of texture just sounds disgusting. Like thinking about it that way.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
When did you first get melanoma?
The first time I had melanoma was 44 years ago. And I found it on my leg. And I had actually seen a news story about a football player that had melanoma on his leg. And when I looked at that and called the doctor had me come in, and then through a variety of doctors, very quickly I had surgery that they removed it from my left thigh.
That's good.
Yes, it was, I think they'd call it today stage 2 melanoma.
And just curious, how many stages are there, and what's the worst one?
There's 4 stages, and it has to do with the depth and the severity of expansion of the cancer. So stage 1 is the most frequently one found and cured right away by removal of the mole, if that's where it's at on your body. Stage 2 is it's a little bit deeper into your skin, like mine was down to my thigh muscle, but not into it. Stage 3, oftentimes it has started to affect your lymph nodes, which are in your armpits, and will enlarge those, and that means the cancer is starting to spread. And then there's stage 4, which is what I had, and actually I'm in remission from it right now. So it's still there, but it's not causing me any symptoms. I'm healthy.
So, you kind of answered my next question, but like, when was the second time you got cancer?
So the second time I got it was 4 years ago. We found it in December of 2016. We had 2 things going on. One, I was having back pains, which we couldn't figure out. We tried physical therapy. We tried several things. And then also I had a cyst that was growing on the right front of my head. It was about half inch, 3/4 of an inch tall. Yeah. So I went to my dermatologist, which I had been seeing for a while, to check my skin. And also I had an autoimmune situation going on where I had alopecia areata, which is various bald spots that move around. So I asked him to remove the cyst, and he called me a day later and had me come into the office, and that's where I learned that I had skin cancer, melanoma. And since it was on top of my head, it was probably everywhere in my body. And it turns out the back pain was because there were 2 tumors that were on my spine that were filling up the space in your spine cord and thus causing pain when I would move certain ways.
Were you ever scared either time?
The first time I wasn't scared at all because I really had never heard of melanoma. I was a little bit scared because the football player that I'd seen the news story, he did die from it. But I really wasn't nervous about it. And then the second time, by the time we found out what it was and how severe it was, I think I kind of went numb. And just reading some stuff that we'd shared with the family, at that time, with the current medications, I had a 30 to 40% chance of surviving 5 years. And now I'm at 4.5. Almost there. If I had as severe as my spread of melanoma was, if that had been happened, say 9 years ago, I might not be here today. But because of research and medical companies finding new medicines, I'm here.
And that's very good news.
Yes, thank you.
Um, how are you treated? Like, I've heard of chemotherapy and people losing their hair. Did that ever happen to you?
No, what I had was immunotherapy, and these were drugs that were put into my body through the back of my hand, and then there was a big bag hanging, and I used Opdivo and Yervoy, and that works with your immune system and makes your immune system stronger, and then helps it fight the cancer. The other advantage of the immunotherapy is that it could go into my brain where I had 19 lesions, where chemotherapy cannot get into your head because of the way we're built. And I also had radiation treatments, but I did not go bald because of the cancer treatments.
How long did your treatments take, and like how long did you take them?
So I did some recent research, and so my first treatments lasted from January of 2017 until October of 2017. And at that point in time, they felt I was in remission because nothing was happening. There were no extra growth. All the tumors seemed to have stopped growing or had shrunk or were stable. Then later on, I had a scan. Well, that was then later on, I had a scan, and the doctor thought, well, maybe the cancer's starting over again.
Uh-oh.
So that was a little scary because they're like, wow, I feel like I've just beat all of this, and now I've got to do it again.
Yeah.
But then they put me on different drugs. They call them BRAF drugs. It works with a gene and tries to stop the growth of the cancer. That was not successful for me because the tumors stayed where they were. They didn't shrink, nothing changed. And at that point, they decided that I should go to MD Anderson in Houston, Texas. And the hospital that I have been going to, Community, is partnered with them in cancer research and other things that they do.
So before we continue any further, I know that there are probably a lot of questions, because I remember when you first got the second time you got cancer.
Yes.
Probably wasn't alive for the first time, but
No.
second time you got cancer, you said, if you have any questions, just ask me. And I spent all day trying to think of one question to ask you. And I remember, like, I called you up the next day and I was like, is cancer contagious? And I know that's a pretty common question, especially around young kids.
Correct.
So would you like to answer that?
The cancer is not contagious. So if your mother or your father
Sister,
or your grandma,
brother,
sister, any of them have cancer,
you can't catch
you
it.
cannot catch it from them.
You can still snuggle with them in bed, hug them, kiss them.
Right.
It's not like a cold. You're not going to catch cancer.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're clearing that.
Yep.
I said that's very pushing questions, one of the most often asked questions from children.
Well, it's a good question
Is it?
too, but I had your dad and your aunt. I suggested to them that they make sure they get in to see a dermatologist, as everybody should, to check their skins, because I thought the thinking was that since I've had twice now, that they might be more susceptible to melanoma cancer and being out in the sun and things like that.
How do people help you when you're going through this tough time?
Okay, so other than the doctors, my church helped me. They set up a meal train. Pardon me if I didn't get that quite right. But a lot of meals were brought to our house. They put us on prayer lists. So I was on prayer lists at a Presbyterian church, a Baptist church, some Muslims that I know, and some Jewish people that I know. We were on all of their prayer lists, so across many religions.
That's so sweet.
Yes, and then I was working for a Catholic church, and so I was on their prayer list also. So I had many religions and all of their people praying for me. So that helps. When you're really sick and you're not feeling good and you kind of want to just give up because you just feel terrible, you start to remember those things and that people are praying for you and they're urging you to keep it going. So that's what helped me.
Yeah. How are you doing with cancer today or this week?
So right now, I still have 4 lesions in my brain. They're spread all around, and they're very small, and they're not changing. So they're very stable. They're not growing, and they're not disappearing either, which I wish they would.
But
Yeah.
you win some, you lose some. So
Right. So, but the radiologist doctor said, we did your scan in April, and I don't think you need to come back until April of 2022. So that would be 1 year. And that's a good sign because he feels nothing is going to be happening. And my oncologist felt the same way about having a body scan done. So when I was going through my treatments, I was getting scans every 3 months. So now we're once a year.
that's very good improvement.
Yes.
And I'm glad they're still watching you though to make sure nothing is changing.
Well, me too, because quite frankly, I worry about it.
And like you don't want like cancer's like a nightmare creeping in the dark.
Yes, I don't want it to be that at all.
What is your future?
My future?
Like
You mean health-wise?
yeah, health wise, yeah.
Health-wise, assuming that the melanoma goes away or remains the same, I'll be healthy and live to be maybe 95 like my father is today. So that's my plan.
Yeah.
Planning to go on trips, go around the country, seeing people, visiting family.
Yeah. So is it true? So I'm gonna answer a few more questions that I know I had, or like people have. Is it true that if it's caught quick enough, about 95% of melanoma can be stopped?
Yes, that's what I've understood, especially the skin cancer that affects moles. The sooner it's found, the more curable it is because they can remove everything, the tissue that has the cancer in it and tissue right around it. And when that's done, you're cured of melanoma cancer at that point. Doesn't mean you wouldn't get it again.
But
Because
that
you could. But that
specific one,
occurrence
yeah.
is done and cured and you're gone. It's all done.
how do you get melanoma? I know that's another one. Like
There's 3 ways to get melanoma. The sun is the biggest cause, and most people have skin cancer because of the sun. You can also get it through your eyes, and I believe you can get it another direction. I apologize. I can't remember that third way. So do some research. We'll figure it out.
yeah. So if you guys have any more questions for Jim,
Or
leave them
Peepaw.
or Peepa, yes. You're probably going to refer to him as Jim, though. So,
Right.
If you guys have any more questions for him, please leave them down in the comments below, and I will try to get back to him so that we can figure out how to answer your questions.
Right.
Going for that annual dermatologist check.
Yep. See the dermatologist once a year.
That's
Right.
going to help out a lot.
Right. Or have your wife or your husband, your mom or your dad can look at your back because that's the hardest place to see something.
Yeah.
So if you're out in the sun a lot, you should do that. They say a lot of farmers, a lot of people in construction are out in the sun a lot can get the cancer more frequently than somebody that's sitting in an office. Keep checking yourself. If you're curious, the doctors are always more than willing to take a look and tell you no, it's not cancer. So better to be safe than sorry.
Big way to not get cancer. Wear sunscreen. That's
Yes.
really important.
Good point.
The minutes at the beach it seems to take, and whenever it gets in your eye, it may be so annoying, but it could be saving you from
Yes.
years of trouble and worry.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you so much for joining us here today, everyone. Also, I just wanted to mention that October 9th, there is an Outrun the Sun race. And that also raises money. And Crafts for a Cure will be having a booth there.
Yep. Very excited about that.
Where we will be selling our handmade items. And also stay posted for updates on if I ever get a website or anything.
Also, I wanted to add, too, that if you would like to support cancer research, Outrun the Sun is our choice. They do an excellent job. They work with doctors across the country, And once a year, they have doctors come in to talk to supporters of Outrun the Sun. If you choose not to support them, support any kind of cancer research. It does pay off. Every $1, $5, $10, $100 all gets added up and is all helpful. I think that's why I'm here today, because of research that people had done that were supported by individuals.
Thank you so much, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.